Well, hi, Carling. Thank you very much for joining us. It's amazing that you're here and that you're willing to talk to us about the hiking in Hong Kong. So we're really curious to learn more about that. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Um, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and
Hmm.
your where your passion for hiking came from?
I think I've always really loved being out in nature, and no matter what was happening in life, really just being surrounded by green, doing some forest bathing has always been a way that I've been able to collect my thoughts, um, and just feel. So when I moved to Hong Kong, I was really worried that I wouldn't have many green spaces because my impression of Hong Kong before I came here was that it was just a concrete city. Everyone told me, people actually, I guess, who had only visited Hong Kong on stopovers to other places, said, "Oh, it's such a dense city. Like you're really going to miss the forest and the outdoors." So I moved here, followed my husband for work, and when I landed here, it is nothing like I had imagined. It is a complete, when I say concrete jungle, it's majority jungle, a little bit of concrete, but mostly mountains and forests. And I really love that in Hong Kong, no matter where you live, just a few minutes away, there's an entry to a green trail somewhere.
Mm.
So back home, I'd have to jump in the car, drive for hours to get to the start of a trail, and then spend the day and come back. In Hong Kong, I can literally walk 10 minutes down my street, and I can be at the start of a hiking trail. And within maybe 10 minutes of hiking, I can feel like I'm completely somewhere else.
Okay,
So I
that's
really love that about Hong
yeah,
Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, especially because you wouldn't think indeed, like if I think of Hong Kong, we've been there once and only more in probably the central business district and all the touristy areas. You wouldn't really necessarily think of Hong Kong as a hiking paradise in that sense. But yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. So I live very close to Central, maybe only a stop away actually. And actually from the heart of Central, if you just continue to walk uphill, you'll reach the start of the trail that takes you up to the mountains, up to the peak, up to Mount High West. And I guess if you just didn't know, you, you'd have no idea. But if you ask any local, they'll be able to tell you where the trails are, and they're everywhere. Um, some of the hikes can be quite dangerous, and because they're, I have never seen like park rangers or anything like that that kind of tell people what to do, what not to do. It's very much a free for all. There have definitely been deaths and injuries from people falling off mountains, I guess.
Mm.
Um, but there are some really great hiking trails and hiking guides as well. So the information is really easy to find, and there are loads of hiking groups. The most people that I see on the hiking trails are generally the older generations, which
Okay.
is really surprising, particularly before COVID and before the gyms shut down here. People on the trails, always older people, and they're incredibly fit. They'd be like marching past me, yelling, "Joel San, Jaja," which means like good morning, sister. And I would barely be able to respond because I'd be so out of breath because the trails are pretty bloody steep. Um, but since COVID, gyms shut down here, and a lot of people have been rediscovering the outdoors. So it's been really, really nice, like a great way to make it through this period.
Mm,
Mm.
absolutely.
There's also a few of the trails are a bit longer, like the Wilson
Mm.
Trail, 81 kilometers. Um,
Yeah,
you've got experience on the longer trails with overnight hiking.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are lots of places that you can pitch tents, pretty much pitch them anywhere. Um, However, so with the Wilson Trail, for example, there are like lots of different stages to the trail. So you don't have to do it all in one go
Mhm.
because every point in the trail is so accessible. You can pretty much read what part of the trail you want to start from. So you could do stage 3 and 4, and that might be a 4 or 5 hour hike. And to get to the start or the end of those hike points is always really easy. It's always within reach of a bus or a train station. The Hose is another one that's incredibly long. I actually broke my ankle on the Wilson Trail
Mm.
Last winter, so last November, I broke my ankle on the trail. I hobbled my way down because I was with two friends who were visiting from London at the time, didn't know what to do. And I was fairly new to Hong Kong. I had no idea that you could call a helicopter to come and rescue you, but there you go.
Okay.
You can do that. If you ever injure yourself on a trail, you can call a helicopter or come and rescue you. And yeah, I should have done that. Yeah, so the really long trails are beautiful because they're so varied. So they pass through mountain, they pass through ocean, rainforest. Most of the trails here, I would say, are really long, and most people do look at what they want to do in the day, might set off in the morning, do a couple of stages of the trail, and be back in time for, afternoon tea, get dressed, head out to dinner. So it doesn't have to be an all-day affair. So, yeah.
Yourself, you've been out with a tent, or then also doing the sections, mainly the day hikes?
Yes, and tents are really easy. So you can hire them here. Apartment living here is very tiny, so not everyone has space to store tents and sleeping mats and all of that equipment. So there are loads of places that you can hire them from. And even if there's some really beautiful hikes in Sai Kung, and if you hike down to a couple of the beaches there are people on the beaches who will rent you tents as well. So it's very easy here, I guess, compared to back home where you have to lug pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that. And there's nothing that can really kill you. So there's loads of wild pigs, porcupines, squirrels, but there are no super poisonous spiders. There are snakes, but very rare do I ever hear of anyone being bitten, let alone die from snake bite. So it's pretty safe in that regard.
Okay. And is there one of the spots that really jump out for you, like that you've been to and you said that that's the most beautiful place that I've hiked?
Honestly, every time I hike, I say, oh my God, this is the best trail. This is my favorite. But so I really love Pat Sin Leng, which is called the Trail of the Eight Immortals. And it's like 8 mountain peaks. It's very near to the border of China, which honestly isn't very far away. Hong Kong's so small.
Yeah.
Actually, on that hike, my phone company increased my bill because it had it had thought that I had gone overseas because I was so close to the border. But of course, no one's going anywhere right now. So yeah, I'd say Pat Sin Leng is one of my favorite because of the beautiful views and the eight peaks that you traverse over. And that takes a day, but it's so worth doing. Another one I really loved was called Ma On Shan, which is like Horse Saddle Mountain, I guess because of the shape of the mountain. That was a bit hair raising. So I did it with a friend, and we did it on a monsoon day. So the wind was insane, and we were clinging to an incredibly skinny ridge with a pretty sharp vertical drop either side. And we weren't expecting it. We're not expecting the wind. So we were down, honestly, on all fours, just hugging the ridge and crawling along, very exposed, but so beautiful. A really popular one here that everyone loves, I love too, it's called Sunset Peak. One of the tallest peaks in Hong Kong, and the views from up there across to all of the other mountains on Lantau is amazing. And you finish that hike in a little beach town, and you pass through all of these abandoned missionary huts, which are in themselves really beautiful. And when you're hiking through early winter or autumn, it's just huge, long silver grass, as tall as your head. And it's golden and it's rippling and it's beautiful.
That sounds amazing.
Sounds really good. Yeah,
absolutely.
When you can travel and you come to Hong Kong, I'll take you hiking.
Oh, I would love that.
That would be nice. Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it. Like, you really. Sometimes when I'm out on the trail, I think, how am I in a city as dense and crazy and busy as this, but with beauty like this that's so close and so easy to access? I would never have thought.
True. And how do you choose your hikes?
That's a really good question. So generally, whoever I'm going hiking with will have a list of hikes that they really want to do. Another way I do it actually is I follow Hong Kong hike or some of the hashtags on Instagram that people might post to have a good look through. And I'm like, oh, I saved that post because that looks like an amazing place to go. So I find hikes that way as well. And word of mouth too.
Yeah. And do you always hike with someone, or do you sometimes join a hiking group, or also alone?
I've never joined a hiking group. I've only ever hiked with friends or by myself. Some of the longer hikes or the more exposed ones where there's scrambling, and scrambling means not quite vertical, but close to, and usually someone will have tacked on a rope or something like that at really steep parts of the trail. I don't know who has done this, but generally if you get to a part of the trail that is vertical, you need to climb up, you don't have equipment, someone will have tacked a rope there. Those hikes I'll always do with someone just in case there's no one around and you're injured. But a lot of the time I hike on my own as well. It's really safe in Hong Kong. I'm never worried that someone's going to be jumping out from behind a rock or anything like that. That's why I'm not really afraid of hiking by myself. And when I am out on trails, even if I'm with friends, I encounter many solo hikers.
Yeah. Okay.
So in that sense, the hiking trails are quite busy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, during pandemic, they're definitely more busy than I've ever seen them. So if you go, well, I guess it depends which trails you go to, but most trails I will encounter people along the way somewhere at some stage, which actually I've come to really like because it makes me feel safe. So I know that if I've fallen down somewhere and I've broken my ankle again, someone eventually is going to come across me before it's nightfall. So
yeah. Gosh, that must have been scary as well. How far were you into the hike when you broke your ankle?
I was a couple of hours in, and it took us many hours to get back down because I didn't know that you could call for help. But yeah.
Did you now save the number in your phone?
No, now I have. I had no idea before, so yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of parts of the trails there is no reception. That's why I'm always really glad to know that someone is bound to come across me sooner or later. Maybe a couple of hours, but someone will come along.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And there are a lot of dogs in Hong Kong, so there are a lot of dogs in the trails too. There's heaps of dogs. I mean, my dogs and most of Hong Kong dogs I've met in Hong Kong are all rescues. My dog's here. She's a rescue dog. I adopted her when she was maybe 4 years old.
Oh.
And she's tiny, but she is a trooper. She has been on all-day hikes and she doesn't flag. Like, she's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice. It's beautiful though, because here in Australia you can't really take your dog anywhere because all the national parks don't allow dogs.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
A pity in that sense.
Yeah. Hong Kong hiking trails, there's always dogs, like people's dogs running around. They love it. I love watching them too.
Can imagine, definitely.
Do you also have plans eventually to do hikes overseas as well, longer distance hikes, or?
Yeah, definitely. I love hiking. So I've done lots of the hikes in New Zealand and in Australia, of course, because it's so close. I've done quite a few hikes in Europe as well, but and the Nakasendo Trail in Japan, that was amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to be able to travel again. Don't know when that's going to be yet. Yeah.
That's still up in the air for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have one particular hike that you still is very high on your bucket list that you would like to do?
I've never been to the States, but some of the national parks there look amazing. Of course, I want to do Yosemite. That looks so. I really, really, really want to do that one. But, yeah. Also the Torre del Paine, I think I really want to do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks beautiful as well.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
some research into that.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you prepare for your hikes, and what do you take with you?
So when I first moved to Hong Kong, I prepared for hikes like I prepare for hikes back home in Oz. I would pack first aid kit, water, everything. And then I met people here and I'd go hiking with them and they just have a water bottle and maybe an MTR card, which is like a train card, and their phone. I'm like, where's the rest of your stuff? And they're like, what stuff? I'm like, first aid stuff, like packs, food in case you're hungry. And they're like, no, it's so actually I pack incredibly light, which makes it very easy to do scrambles and mountain climbs. I will generally just pack an energy bar, sunscreen, and water, and that's about it. Only because I know that it's so easy to get from different parts of the trail, unless you're up on a super exposed mountain ledge. And even if you are, if you hike downhill, 2 or 3 hours, you will come to some kind of road where there'll be locals selling something, or they'll actually be like a little settlement somewhere, and you can generally get what you want or be able to access transport to get to somewhere. So you don't have to jump in your car and drive really far to start a trail. The trails all start from little train stations or little villages. So
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
yeah, I mean, Hong Kong's really small and it's very vertical. So it's just mountain and little village. So it's very easy to get around. So yeah, I don't pack much.
That sounds lovely though. Just to be able to
It's
get
very
out
good.
or
Yeah.
be on the trail in a few minutes. That's a dream.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Like before I start work in the morning, I'll either be doing a run along the harbour, or more often than not behind my house, about 10 minutes honestly, is the start of the Peak Trail, which is it's just called the Peak in central Hong Kong. Yeah, climb up there, and then from there I'll take another path to go up to Mount High West, or you can like walk around the back of the mountain. Loads of streams and waterfalls. There's loads and loads of different trails. I'll generally do a green trail before I start work, just because it's a really nice way to set your day. Or after work, if I don't have late calls, I'll be able to go up there and watch sunset. So it's really nice.
Beautiful, yeah. And how do you find your information? Is there like a hiking trail book of Hong
Yeah, there are.
Google it?
Yeah. There's loads and loads and loads of hiking books of all the trails in Hong Kong for like leisure hikers or serious hikers. And there are endless sites as well, like lots of sites. And there are lots of English sites, but there are even more sites in local language. So, which unfortunately, I don't read. I just use Translate. But it's really easy to find info. And then people blog about some of the hikes they've done. And generally, the people who blog about it, they take photos of where you find the start of the trail, because actually that is a difficult thing sometimes. You're in the middle of a really busy area of the city and you're like, how the hell do I find my way to this trail that people say start from here? And it will often be, look out for this yellow barrier, look out for this little sign, wind your way through this thing that looks like a stormwater drain, and often it is a stormwater drain, and then bush bash your way up this little section, and then you'll find the start of a rocky trail. It's often like that. So that's why I like finding blog posts, because they'll have photos of all those things and I can just find the markers pretty easily. Trail running is a huge sport here, huge. So lots of trail runners tie little ribbons to mark the way along the trail, or they'll like chalk on the side of a tree or chalk on something. So I guess you train yourself over time to recognize what those markers are. And sometimes, even if I haven't read about it, I'll see signs like that, like a little ribbon or a little chalk mark, and I'll think that's clearly a trail. I've got some time, I'll just go check it out and see where it leads me, and come back later and do the proper hike. So there's lots of exploring to do.
Yeah. And what would you recommend for overseas visitors? Maybe not too many now, but later on, if they're just in Hong Kong for a few days to go away.
Yeah, for a few days.
Smart,
Like,
yeah.
if you're here for a few days, definitely do the Peak because it's easy to access. It's like right from the heart of the city. It won't take you that long. So the Peak hike, and if you've got a bit more time, do the Peak hike and tack on Mount High West because it's a little offshoot of the trail and that's stunning. And there are some beautiful hikes on Lantau Island, which is really, it's close to the airport actually. It's really easy to get to. I would do Sunset Peak because it's not that hard, but it is really gorgeous. And it's not that far away. I would definitely do some of the little islands. So what I haven't talked to you about is just from Central, the ferry pier. There are loads and loads of ferries that go to lots of different islands in Hong Kong, and the ferries aren't long. They can be like 20 minutes to Lamma Island, or an hour to some of the further islands. And the islands themselves are super cute. The villages are beautiful, and there's some really nice hiking trails too. So I would tell visitors to go out to Lamma Island. So the ferry will drop you at one part of the island, and then it's a really easy family trail hike to the other end of the island, and you can have a meal at the other side and then catch a ferry from the other side back to Central. So that's a really easy one to do.
Takes you out of the hustle and bustle for a bit.
Gosh, I wish we knew this when we were in Hong Kong so many years back.
Yeah, next time you travel, if you're going to Europe, come by Hong Kong, but spend a little bit of time just hiking. And you can hike with the hikes for all levels of fitness. So there are lots of what they call family trails where I see loads of parents with toddlers in the toddler backpacks. Hiking along. So yeah, and there's heaps of reservoir trails as well. So another really easy one to do is it's called Shing Mun Reservoir, and you wouldn't believe that you're in Hong Kong. So it is easy because it's relatively flat, and for Hong Kong that's really unusual because Hong Kong is so bloody hilly and mountainous. So Shing Mun Reservoir, beautiful body of water, incredible forest, but loads and loads of wild buffalo, wild cows, lots of monkeys. So it's really nice for visitors to see that part of Hong Kong too. It's very rural, it's beautiful.
Nice. So I'm just looking at some of the questions that we thought of.
Yeah, sure.
Any things that you still want to share? Things that we didn't touch on?
Not really. I think as far as hiking goes, I recommend that when anyone comes to Hong Kong as a tourist, definitely look into the hiking trails because they are so beautiful.
Definitely. Yeah. And what will be your one tip for hiking in Hong Kong?
My one tip, you have to bring water and sunscreen. And if you're going to hike in summer, which unless you're a really hardcore hiker, I think you find it really tough because it's so humid and sticky. My tip is go early in the morning. Actually, no matter what time of year, go start your trail early in the day. Hong Kongers are a very late to wake bunch of people. So you'll find that they really enjoy hiking after lunchtime. And most people want to catch sunset from somewhere. So if you want a quieter trail, definitely do it early in the morning. There won't be anyone there.
Okay, that's nice.
That's a very good tip. And probably to beat the warmth a bit as well.
At the same time.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
No worries.
With us.
Thank you.
It was really great talking to you.
Absolutely.
And to learn so much about the hiking in Hong Kong.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.